transitions in the legal space, do they happen? Of course they do. Is there a one-size-fit-all environment that exists in the legal space? To have this very interesting conversation with us today, I have Payel Chatterjee, who is a litigation head at Adani Enterprises Ltd. She has a solid experience of 12 years behind her, and she also will enlighten us about how was it for her when she transitioned from, say, a law firm space to a corporate litigation space, and what is it that we really need to keep in mind when we are making a transition. I think a very generalized understanding of this will also come out from this conversation, and I'm really looking forward to it. Let me give you a brief background about Payel. She is currently has an in-house role at the Adani Group since September 2021. And prior to this, she worked at Nishit Desai Associates for over a decade and was a leader in the firm's dispute resolution and investigations practice. Now, she also serves as an IBA Asia Pacific officer for the Business Crimes Committee. And she also has a keen interest in academics and has taught area courses in various universities. So you have somebody who likes to do a lot of things and she's good at it. Hi, Payel. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Sanya. Thank you so much for inviting me.
So I'll just quickly come to the questions that we have for you today in mind. You've had a plethora of experience from the law firm side, from the corporate side, and you also like to teach. You are in the academic side as well. So my point of view, my question is coming from the point of view of understanding how was the journey like when you worked at a law firm and then you moved to a corporate? First of all, what was it like? How was the shift like? And secondly, is there a difference in the way you work, say at a law firm or in the corporate side in-house? Because these are the questions that I myself want to ask a lot of people who are, working in law firms and the corporate side as well. So it'd be nice to get some clarity on that.
Thank you, Sanya. So it's been almost 12 years for me that I spent at a law firm. And then in the last year, I moved to an in-house role. So obviously the first 12 years, I think in a law firm, it's a very different atmosphere. I don't think it's right to even compare the two of them. They have very different structures, different environment, and a different kind of skill set which is needed for you to excel in each of those environments. But I think as a fresh law school graduate, obviously it was pretty clear in my head at least that I wanted to get into disputes. So there was, at least through the internship days, that's one thing I got a clarity about, that it's not something I want to venture into maybe corporate law or maybe IP, but I was very clear I want to do disputes. I think there's a separate high when you appear before a judge. It's a totally different feeling altogether. And I think the other good part about litigation is per se that it does not restrict you to one topic. You are handling so many cases at the same time, which are on different issues, different topics of law which are being dealt with. One could be a trademark litigation, while at the same time, the other matter which you're working on is maybe a share purchase agreement dispute. So very different nuances which you need to understand. So that is one thing which maybe attracted me towards litigation itself. Back when I started in 2009, obviously arbitration was coming up. And it was slowly evolving that, yes, we maybe need to make a move from litigation to arbitration, explore it as another remedy where you can resolve your disputes. So, fortunately, I ended up joining Nishit Desai Associates in 2011, which has an amazing international arbitration practice, which I would say was a turning point in my career because it allowed me to move towards international arbitration, get the kind of exposure which was needed and in those early days itself to understand what arbitration is, both from a substantive as well as procedural aspect. So at least I think the first step is understanding what you want to do, what area of law do you like, it doesn't come instantly. You have to maybe do a little bit of here and there, unless you have that clarity back in law school that I am very clear this is what I like. A lot of law firms allow you to do that by allowing you on rotation in your initial years to try out maybe a corporate work as well as disputes and something else. So that after working on a practical level, you realize what you like, which allows you to choose and decide the next 5 years ahead of you. I think the first bit about, the law firm experience, I would say, is very helpful from understanding that there's no shortcut to hard work. I mean, you cannot get away with it. Yes, you should work smart. There is no doubt about it. I mean, it can't be that you're slogging always. But I think a lawyer's life is such that you are working 24/7. So, and all day in a week. But if you're willing to put your head down and actually work those initial years of your life, you reap the results eventually. Because you have actually not thought, those few years you've actually put down and realized that this is how you go about research, understand the law and apply it to your particular situation, be it drafting, be it oral advocacy, both aspects. I think the first 5 years in your career is very critical to form that base. Obviously, as you grow in your profession, you might even widen your horizons. You can't work in a silo mentality. I think that's something I'm very thankful for NDA for. They were very clear about the fact just because you're a disputes lawyer doesn't mean you do only disputes. You need to have a focus which is broader, because at the end of the day, when you're meeting somebody for a business meeting, your conversation is not just about that dispute. It goes much beyond that.
And plus, I also feel like when you said that, some law firms allow you to do that, where a person can, say, rotate teams initially when they get on board. That is so important, I think. I think every law firm should allow that, because personally speaking, when I was in law school, I was very clear about joining a law firm, so as to speak. But today, I am working in the journalism space. So, that broadening of horizons is very important, especially by your initial employers, which I myself was very thankful for. They allowed me to do a lot of things that I couldn't probably have done anywhere else. They allowed me to go and try out on consultancy here and there. So, yeah, it's very important. And when you talk about, say, meeting people and getting somebody on board for business, say you're having a business meeting, there is a need to have a conversation with them beyond your expertise. And I think people don't understand that in the legal space a lot, I feel. I mean, that's my personal opinion, that you may be really good at your job, but if you can't really pull off a conversation, you probably will lose it.
I think, I think now being on the other side as well, and while I was at the law firm also, I think what works the most for working on any particular matter or in the process of getting business is your relationship. It's not just your knowledge of law or your particular expertise. It's your relationship which you build. So I think as a lawyer, if you are growing in your profession, it's a given you have to be an expert when it comes to what you are doing. But there are added things which maybe a client is looking at. Building that trust, walking that extra mile and being available for your client and ensuring that you can give a holistic advice is something which is very important, because that actually builds, it's like the bridge which you actually meet, both parties meet midway to ensure that, okay, you keep in mind the legal nuances and the business requirements. And for that, I think the people skills are very important when it comes to a lawyer as well.
And we don't
draw that connect with your client.
We don't get any training for that, Payel, in law school. Those people skills, we have to literally build them up on our own and kind of make our way through. Don't you think that should be like a course, so as to speak, in law school, or somebody coming and talking to us about this in law school?
Yeah, I think it's very important and people should talk about it. I'm not sure about a course, but definitely to build that. The very fact that nowadays we see a lot of client counseling sessions. I didn't have it back when I was in law school, that many client counseling. I finally happened just in my last year. But I think it's very important to understand when you're interacting with your client, just how much information to give and not to give, And I think the listening abilities to hear them out, I think it's very important. And not restrict your conversations to law. There's a lot more to life than law. So I think that approach is something which needs to be built in. I think in law schools, there is so much pressure. There's so much competition going on. Okay, I have to win this particular mode, or I have to be in the top five. I mean, I think it's just overrated. Today, after 13 years in the profession, I can say it is overrated. It does help you. I'm not saying it doesn't. It does. Maybe for your higher education. The first job which you're getting, it obviously depends on your cutoff marks and how you get shortlisted. But in the long run, I don't think that's what really matters. How, as a person, you have evolved over the years, picked up from your practical experiences, and put it into work. That's what really matters. I mean, frankly, I was one of the top five students, but I didn't end up getting a great job during my placement. And at least not in the top tier one firms. And obviously, I was very disappointed about it. But as a lawyer, that's not the test of who you are as a lawyer. Who you are is over the years when you're actually working at a firm or under a council or even a corporate. That's where you evolve and you decide how you want to be as a lawyer, rather.
And I think that applies to all sectors for that matter. And when I put your punchline, I think this will be the punchline of our conversation, that life is beyond law as well. There is life beyond that. And when I put it in my own sector that I'm currently working in, that is legal journalism, I think you can't really put a stamp to what you're going to be doing and what is the expertise that you're carrying only on the basis of your academics, so as to speak. And this seems to be an issue, I think, across the board, where people think that, okay, if you've done a certain degree from a certain place, then only you are like somebody who will be able to manage this particular issue or this particular conflict. And that takes me to the next question that I have in mind. You said that, when you're consulting with a corporate and you're working with a corporate, so as to speak, there may be a difference of opinion with, say, what they want from a business point of view and how they would like their particular legal conflict to turn out. And a lawyer, that is, say, so as to speak, when it comes to you may have a different opinion to give, which is more legal and which has less of the business aspect involved in it. So how do you really figure that out and how do you bridge the gap?
So obviously in-house is fairly new for me. Even now, I think I'm learning on a day. I think the best part is in this 8 months, what I've realized is every day there's new learning. There's not one day which goes without where I have not learned some new thing. It's not necessarily a new provision of law or a new judgment which I've read, but internally how a corporate works and exactly what you said, what a business team wants or has in mind and what the legal acumen tells me to do. I'll give you an example. I mean, there could be a matter where from a legal perspective, from merits, I feel it's not the strongest of the cases. And it makes no sense to spend that much time and money and effort in that particular matter. But for reasons best known to the business or for reasons where you are in a business relationship with the opposite party, you are required to go through that particular litigation or arbitration. It's a very different kind of decision which you take. Even if it might not be the strongest of cases, you want to actually fight it out. And then it happens in a vice versa situation as well, where you are very strong in the merits, but given the relationship with the opposite side or the opposite party, you feel that you don't want to mess up that relationship and yet somewhere reach a settlement. It's a very tricky situation. I mean, it's not easy. I think there's a lot more understanding of relationships, management skills, and people skills when it especially comes to the corporate. Because you need to have all your stakeholders on the same side to go ahead with the decision. I mean, I myself realized it while I was in a law firm. Maybe I have churned out a draft and sent it to my client and wondering, okay, we have a deadline. Why am I not getting a response? Please give me the responses quickly. My role is limited, sending it out, drafting it for them, and waiting for them to get it back to me. What I realized today is after coming on the other side, it's not so easy for the legal counsel internally to get back to you so quickly. There are lots of approvals, lots of processes involved. You need go ahead from various stakeholders within the organization itself before you can actually reach a decision. It could be as simple as whether you want ad hoc or an institutional arbitration, whether who you nominate as your arbitrator. It could be whether I make this claim or not, because maybe from an evidence perspective, I'm not that strong. But on the face of it, the claim looks really good. But can I support it in the long run? Will it actually get settled midway so I can actually put it as a passing statement? There are several factors. I mean, it's one thing for the lawyer from the law firm to put it as a comment for you to discuss internally and get back to them. But there's a lot goes behind actually taking that decision. I think that's also an art which needs to be learned. So I think what helps is having that law firm background where you have learned your basic core skills and your expertise when it comes to the basic law aspects, applying it, and then when you come to the other side, telling the business, look, this is what you want. I understand, but please realize there is a downside to this. It might not work actually in front of a court. A judge is just going to throw your matter. You might think I need to do it, but are you willing to face that consequences? You can explain them better when you understand the law and how courts or arbitrators operate. So I think you have to be that connecting factor between the law firm and the business set of people.
Right.
And try to rationalize and come to a common goal, I would say.
Interesting. And I think it's also important to understand that if you are moving from a law firm to, say, a corporate, there will always be some bit of maybe I won't call it a clash, but there may be some kind of a discomfort, say, for a person who's wanting to do that. And do you think there is anything that they can do when they are channelizing this transition in terms of, say, learning some skill before they get on board, or getting some more expertise or learning something new? Is there anything that they should be doing before moving forward that you probably didn't do and you think that you should have done?
So frankly, I didn't do anything special in when I wanted to make the move. What I was clear about is I wanted to understand a little more of the business side of things, understand the commercial ways of operating. That was one of the primary reasons I wanted to make a move to the in-house side. Now, the fact that I made a move also, I had something else in mind is I don't want to restrict myself to a particular industry. What often happens is you go in-house and you are, maybe it's a fintech entity. You are doing only that particular kind of work. By virtue of me having joined a group like Adani, which is so diverse and there are portfolios across all sectors, what it allows me at a group level is to work across those sectors. I would say it's almost like a mini law firm because there are so many companies, so many different sectors, and so many matters that you work on different matters with different set of people and across different industries. It does not restrict my scope. I think if people are interested in in-house, one thing which you said people might think of doing it is understand the industry very well in which you are getting into. That, I think, industry knowledge makes a very big difference. A lot of times we end up seeing that, maybe you have worked for a particular client in the law firm role. They end up asking you to join them because they also feel and have that comfort with you that they have built that relationship where they know that you understand their business and internal workings that well, which makes the transition very smooth. But I think there are some things which you just can't learn. There are some things you learn on the job itself. There is no shortcut to that. I mean, it's on the job learning because no two places are going to be same. Each industry is very different unless you have worked with them as part of your secondment or any kind of particular matter itself. We have interacted so closely. But otherwise, it's, I think, a move where you need to know firstly why you have made that move and then adapt yourself to the new challenges that come up and learn in the process. And frankly, I think law is something, it's not that if you have chosen one thing, that's the be all and you don't, you move to something else. I mean, but while I was at a law firm, I initially started off with arbitration, but eventually we built the white collar practice over there.
Mhm.
I absolutely loved it. I enjoyed the thrill of going through an investigation process where you're interviewing clients, and actually drawing up reports, then deciding the next course of action. So you have to be open to learning new things and taking up new challenges. So I think, and if you don't like it, that's fine. It's not a end of the world for you. Law is so vast. There are so many opportunities today when it comes to law. It does not mean you have to restrict yourself to a typical law firm life. It could be a
Correct.
big corporate, it could be even a small startup. And with law being required in different industries, like whether it be digital, it could be cyber, it could be crypto, there is so much scope and so many new laws coming up. So there are various avenues. And you make your choices. Something works, something doesn't work. So, but you have to be willing to take that chance. You can't just confine yourself to the traditional modes of working.
Absolutely. And I think you really need to understand that it's not the end all, done all of the whole process. If you don't like something, and even if you're, of a certain age, a lot of people think that, okay, I've come to this particular age. By this age, I should be, at this level in the firm or at a particular level in the fraternity. And I think that is something that I myself want to challenge, that why are you stuck to those obsolete thoughts of your life, or where you want it to be headed. And that, I think, is the main message, or that should be put across by young and accomplished people like yourselves as well.
I don't know about accomplished, but yeah, I think I've realized one thing in my 13-year journey is that you have to be approaching things with an open mind,
Mhm.
take up challenges, and put your head down and work. Without that, nothing is going to work.
Absolutely. I guess, thank you so much for this wonderful, short and sweet conversation, Payal, and taking out the time on a weekend to speak to us. And I hope that we're able to have you again on some interesting topic of law, and discuss
Sure.
something at Lawbeat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanya, for inviting me. It was a pleasure